Let's get out of the fog and into the open sunlight of the BerkshireEdge.com. That's right, the BerkshireEdge.com. They come on the air once a week, and we talk live on air. And we welcome in both Marcy and David. Good morning.
Yes, good morning. I mean, I'm not sure that I'm not sure we're taking you out of the fog, because we have our own stories about marijuana continuing.
Well, why don't we get and see
the
what
smoke fog,
see what we wind up with here.
And it's no longer smoke shop, really, because it's also you can eat it.
That's right.
That's why, isn't it Theory Wellness?
Smoke. Pardon?
So you're right. So it's got to be Joe's Smoke and Eat Shop.
Smoke and Eat Shop.
Why don't you just call it the Shack?
That's right. There you go.
Just call it whatever.
Well, anyways, Theory Wellness.
Hot Shack.
Theory Wellness just sounds too medical for me.
That's the idea.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think that is the idea. It was,
all right.
At any rate, to begin with.
Well, let's go on to this. Your first story.
Anyway, yeah, we have, we have this ongoing wonderful series by a woman named Sheila Clary. This is the 6th part of her series called Opening the Weed Gates. And this time she talks about the fact that so many people in Massachusetts no doubt voted for recreational marijuana in order to address the social inequity of the no marijuana laws and who got punished. It was there were important racial biases and young people also, and that in a way we're trying to address this.
Well, Sheila Clary, our writer on this subject, finds that in fact what's happening is that this is big business now. This is not trying to address some unfairness in penalizing kids and young people for smoking a joint and sending them to jail for 2 years, which happened in the case of one young man named Mitchell Lawrence, so she's pointing out that this has just become a huge.
What started out as a way to address racial and social inequity has now turned into a big business.
Right, and it's being exploited by, and a lot of money is being made here.
Yeah,
a lot.
I mean, they anticipate that it'll be a $2 billion business or $50 billion business by 2029 in Mass. No, I'm sorry. $50 billion in the U.S. by 2029, and a $2 billion business in Massachusetts. And banks are not allowed to participate. Now there is a regulation being discussed by the Massachusetts Cannabis Control Commission to prevent any applicants who don't live locally. So it would really be a 2-year ban on large marijuana companies being backed by outside money, which is to keep it local. That has not.
But towns are. We have to say that towns are benefiting from this because they get a percentage in order to allow them to have the license in their towns. They get a percentage of the sales. So.
Yeah.
It's in the interest of the town selectmen for people to come and get stoned. I mean, I think that's kind of ironic, don't you think?
Well, it's not necessarily to get stoned. It's that
I don't think it's any different really than when liquor shops first started opening up. I just think that things have to be worked out over the course of time, and they will. be worked out over the course of time. It's just going to be interesting to see how long it takes to various states on their own to work it out. And then what you say is when big business tries to come in, and they will successfully do it because
Well, they are.
yeah, money,
they are over here.
Yeah, they are
money
already,
talks, and when they come in to see exactly what happens with local control on that point. How do you in Connecticut we have the casinos that are operated by Indian tribes, and
So called. You mean
yeah.
Steve Wynn? Oh
Well-
yeah, I remember him.
but the basic license is held by these organizations. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens when it comes to marijuana, because Connecticut, believe you me, is not far behind Massachusetts now
No.
in wanting to get something together.
right.
So that's
Well,
it.
we're
it'll
gonna
become. The point is that it'll become what I think Sheila is pointing out is that everybody's going to depend on this income. I mean, it's no longer going to be a.
You're absolutely right. In Connecticut,
Yeah.
It'll be a revenue stream.
Right.
when all
And
the,
that is
when,
how it- yeah.
when all the states started these big joining in these lottery games, boom.
Yeah, for instance.
You're worried about people that are going to gamble. All of a sudden, when you open up casinos, boom, you're worrying. Okay, how do you
manage
Because
the unintended consequences?
and because you're depending on that revenue stream, and it's going to be the same thing with marijuana. It's the same thing with tolls. I mean, states have got to not only think of ways to make more money, they often have to find a way to better spend their money.
Yeah, well, yeah.
That they,
But that's a big factor, and as people as it appears that people forget how things work. I think that just the whole boring, sausage making of the situation doesn't get the coverage that it should, because that keeps people from thinking, oh, well, if you do this, if then, what the consequences are from something.
But it's interesting to see it so close to home in Great Barrington and see how it's developing. It really is, I think, a boon to us locally, whether you're in New York or Connecticut, to see exactly how.
To watch us.
Watch. It's like watching a petri dish and see what develops with how it's handled, and it's only going to get wackier when all the other shops open up, like in Sheffield and Great Barrington. So
Right.
it'll be very interesting to watch how it goes.
Well, Sheila says that as of February 3rd, there was nearly $32 million in legal marijuana sold in Massachusetts.
That's right off the bat.
$32 million.
In just 1 month, just a little over a month.
Yeah, right. Since it started at the beginning of December.
I wonder
Wonder where that money came from.
I wonder how many of the legislators are smoking marijuana.
Well, I don't know, but it does. I mean, it is an interesting thought, which hadn't occurred to me before. That we now have, the town becomes a legal pusher. I mean, it's in our.
How does that make you feel about your ad base, Mars?
Yeah. Well,
It's like, wow, there's 60. How much? 34. What was the number?
I don't know, but we have to move on.
32 million.
There's 32 million. Somebody had that money.
Yeah, I know, and they're not spending it on us.
Exactly. First thing I think of.
They're spending it on
Hey.
more. They're spending it on more marijuana.
Marshall, I've got
Yeah,
a question.
exactly.
If we give marijuana with an underwriting contract, can we do that?
No.
No, it's not like
Okay. It's like with
Crack.
alcohol. All right,
Okay.
let's go to the story on Bridge and the forum on what it's like to be a person of color in the Berkshires.
Well, this is one of two stories that we have about, or one of several stories that we've been having about honoring Black History Month, and W.B. Du Bois, whose birthday is celebrated in Great Barrington because he was born there, and so these things have all kind of combined into kind of celebration of the Black history in the Berkshires, and they held a forum, Multicultural Bridge, which is a multicultural organization, held a forum the other day on just what exactly was it like to be a Black person in the Berkshires, and it was quite interesting. It was led by head of the local and Dennis Powell as the
Dennis Powell,
head of the local NAACP, and they had some faculty members from Simon's Rock, Bard College at Simon's Rock, and Shirley Edgerton, who's a local longtime activist on behalf of African Americans in the Berkshires. It was quite interesting. Dennis, people are still. It was interesting to hear how African Americans still feel a little nervous,
right,
about being in the minority, and we had. There was a wonderful exhibit that's been opened up that's at the Berkshire Museum in Pittsfield now, where there's some stories. You can listen and follow stories that African Americans of how they actually came to the Berkshires and the history of the African American community here in the Berkshires, and it's fascinating.
Yeah, we hope to have those testimonies streaming on the Edge eventually. Yep. We're talking to the museum about it. But, what they're saying is that, black families worry as much about their children when they go out of the house as they ever did. And that, and they say, Powell from the NAACP says, I'm not an expert in being black. He said, I am black.
Well, Chris Rocco had a joke which was absolutely true. He talked about on stage at a big concert one night saying, about being black and about as a parent you have to worry about when your kids go out. As an adult yourself, you have to worry. He said, it's so bad, he said, and he pointed to a white kid who was a waiter and dropping things. And he said, he asked the kid, would you switch places with me? And the kid said no. And Chris Rock goes, I'm a millionaire, I'm a black guy, and here's a white kid that does nothing, that isn't even willing to switch places with me.
Right.
Now, it was funny, but it's true.
It is true. Right.
It's absolutely true.
Right. And, and Powell also says, that, or somebody said that, it shouldn't be every black person's job to raise awareness of bias in others. That white people should understand that they have to cure their own bias, and that black people don't have to be the ones who are spearheading the effort all the time.
I'm not against. It's funny. It ties in with blackface and everything like that. White people in this country, because of the dominant race, if you want to go out dressed up as Michael Jackson, then buy a Michael Jackson costume. You can actually buy the costume.
Yeah.
You can buy, but to say and use as an excuse that you're going to put blackface on because you're like, no, and that's what the problem is in this country, and I think that a forum like Bridge hosted is good because it's you can't understand what it's like to be black unless
right. No, you can't.
You just can't.
Right.
Well, I'm wondering. It just occurred to me. I was just wondering. There are other countries, other European countries, for instance, in which there is an African American population, such as like France, for instance, and I'm wondering if white Frenchmen ever do a blackface, do performances in blackface.
I think it's...
Or is this an American...
I think it's an American, unfortunately, tradition.
I think so, too, right.
I hate to say it, but it's not only that, but also, if you remember in the days where the people used to take their eyes and push them back to be Chinese and stuff like that, never realizing how offensive that really is. But
right.
Well, but anyways, I think that it's pretty cool that Bridge.
Well, people like.
So, is it only Americans who deride other races and cultures?
No, absolutely not. And
but Americans have a certain.
Well, I'm wondering because you don't hear about that. I'm just wondering if it's a human.
It is a human thing,
response,
and
or is it something in American culture?
I think
that is mean-spirited and bias by
can
nature.
You can take a look in England how Brexit. I mean, a lot of people voted for Brexit to keep people of color.
It's not just people of color; it's people of different persuasions, and I just think that you want to widen the lens here, and acknowledge that in all of this, in every culture, there is inherent prejudices against others.
Well, there's fear of the other.
So that, I mean, just working from there. That's all I'm trying to say.
Right.
But in the question of race relations, it's not so much fear of the other; it's a real demeaning of the other. I mean, it's I can understand fear of the other or fear of the unknown, but here we have a situation in which it's not only fear, but it's really, you're making fun of, you're keeping them as second-class citizens, you're keeping them inferior, and viewing them inferior. It's something more than just not knowing them.
And
in fact, blacks and whites in this country know each other very well. They just, but the blacks continue to suffer from this.
All right, let's take a look at your next story. The Berkshire Museum has opened an exhibit presenting oral histories of Black lives in the Berkshires. We just had a couple of these things happen about Black lives here locally in the past month or so. But at the Berkshire Museum, this should be something that maybe people, especially people in school, should go
there
attend.
There actually are two very interesting exhibits that just opened at the Berkshire Museum, and we have stories about both of them. I mean, the first one is the African American stories, which is relevant to this issue that we're just talking about. But they have taped testimonies from leaders in the the current black community, and also leaders from the local NAACP, talking about their experience of being black in Berkshire County and in the United States. And it's a very interesting exhibit. But they also have opened last week a terrific exhibit on Leonardo da Vinci's inventions that they've been waiting for a long time. Apparently it was stuck at a museum in Houston and couldn't come here because of the government shutdown. So they finally opened it last week, and I went to the opening night, and it was terrific. I mean, it's all very hands-on. It's
called Machines in Motion.
Right. And it's inventions that that Da Vinci invented, but they were all built according to Da Vinci's original designs, using the kinds of technologies and materials that would have been available to Da Vinci at his time. And it really invites you to participate. There were, old people, young people, children. Everybody was there, and everybody was pulling levers and turning wheels, and it's really a terrific, very participatory exhibit that is well worth a trip to the museum. So there are these two really, really good exhibits at the Berkshire Museum, which has been subject of much discussion lately.
Well, they needed a few shows like this and stuff like that to rebuild the trust and faith in them.
Right.
Yeah. I want to mention, because it's we've gone past marijuana and everything, but Valentine's Day and chocolate.
Right, chocolate. Right. Well, we have this sinful and decadent series called Decadence All Day. And it's a 4-part series that takes you through Valentine's Day and how you can eat chocolate at every moment of the day. So there's also a directory and every installment of all the chocolatiers in Berkshires and Connecticut and Vermont and New York. So it's Berkshires and surrounding states, where you can buy, artisan chocolate. It's really wonderful. You know, we talk about where chocolate came from. I mean, it came from the Indians, the South American Indians, the Mexican Indians. Montezuma presumably drank it by the gallons, thinking that it was an aphrodisiac, and the European conquerors brought it back to Europe, where Madame du Barry, who was a lover of Louis XV, among others, apparently used to mix chocolate with amber in order to stimulate her lovers. And Cadbury in England was the first one that packaged chocolates in a heart-shaped box, and that was where the connection between chocolate and Valentine's Day became solidified. And Valentine's Day originally started out as a religious holiday that remembered martyrs, but little by little it turned more to an association with love and chocolate. So now we have, so now we're giving you ways of having chocolate when you wake up, chocolate for breakfast, chocolate for lunch, chocolate for dinner, chocolate for a late-night cocktail, and a piece of chocolate at your bedside.
All right, we only have 2 minutes left because we got to get to this next story because I found this app by accident, and darn it, it's only for school students in the dorms. But Meal Gopher is a very well done.
Marshall, I think you could pretend. Why don't you just have some student interns down there at the station, and then she'll come and deliver.
Everything from the design of the homepage, which has a funny-looking gopher with sunglasses and everything like that, is perfectly done. I just wish that they would also include other people other than the students.
I'm sure they eventually will.
By the way, let's tell people what we're talking about.
Meal Gopher, and who's the woman who started it?
Kim Widener.
Yeah.
She's from Salisbury.
Yes, she is.
You know that town.
I know that town very well.
It's over the border.
I live in that town. They'd love to kick me out, but I live in that town.
Anyway, this is a woman who...
she started out with her son. Her kids go to Berkshire School up in Sheffield, and they were always asking for snacks, in the evening. And so it just sort of dawned on her, well, why not have a little... If her kids at this school are asking, I mean, there must be a lot of kids that are asking for snacks, so why not deliver them? And so she has this little delivery business called Meal Gopher, and you call up and order snacks, and she'll deliver food to their dorms. So this sounds terrific. I agree with you, though. She should widen her market here, her audience.
Well, it'll be interesting to see how successful. I mean, the pizza parlors do excellent business around here, and with the schools. What this app
does,
does,
she will pick it up and deliver it to them.
Yeah, it also broadens the experience. Well, they'll go to the good restaurants, and like the Woodlands and all. They'll deliver that food there. Which Uber has a thing that does that as well. But I think the way she set this up, it's kind of cool, and it will appeal to a lot of different people that maybe don't
I
know
hope
about
so. It. Yeah, we wish her luck. I mean, she's working very hard.
Mealgopher.com is where people...
Mealgopher.com, right. You know what they say, go for it.
Well, that's what
go for it.
Well, we're speaking...
Go for it.
Speaking about go, we have to go because we're out of time now.
Okay.
But the BerkshireEdge.com, the BerkshireEdge.com.
Thank you very much.
All right, guys, we'll speak to you next week.
Bye.
Thank you.
That is the Berkshire Edge live on air this morning here on Robin Hood Radio.